Welcome to the David Wells Experiment. I'm your host, David Wells. It is a Monday morning in, let's see, what month are we in? Let's see, yeah, it is May 12th, 2025. I think it'll probably be a good day today. I usually wake up at like 7 something in the morning. I wake up early for most people. For me, sleeping in is waking up at 8 in the morning, which I know for a lot of people that's like, oh man, 8 in the morning. But 7 a.m., if not 6 a.m., is my default. I don't think that's anything special about me, it's just what I do. And I work at 12 o'clock and I work till about 9. That's how things are going now. Yeah. So that's how my day will be. And we got a new manager. She seems really cool. So I guess you could say things are going well. But I don't know. There's really nothing to complain about. And I feel like with a lot of people, if they really looked at things, they could say, man, there's really not a lot to complain about, but at the same time, I feel like I ought to. And that kind of feels like a trick. Like some kind of magic trick where people feel like they're hyped up, but not in a good way. I think there are like good kinds of hyped up and bad kinds of hyped up. I think the good kinds of hyped up is like a 5-year-old back in the 90s watching Power Rangers and wanting to jump all over the place and do martial arts because they're just so excited. I think the bad kind of hyped up is an adult in the 2020s reading the news and thinking about, oh man, this bad thing is happening. Oh man, this bad thing is happening. And just like their amygdala is going off constantly and like, oh my gosh, I gotta pay this bill, this expense. How much more is a burger gonna be? And just in this constant state of like surprise and shock. I think that's like the bad kind of hype up. And then again, who knows? My definitions could be wildly different from what the general public thinks of hype up. Like, I thought that doom scrolling was just mindlessly scrolling. That was my definition. And that was the context I had heard it used in. But it turns out that doom scrolling is looking for bad news as you scroll. And that sounds a bit more accurate and probably more applicable. But to me, I don't know. Just scrolling for scrolling's sake feels like a pretty doomy thing. You know, there's one thing that I really sort of resent about 2020, and I think that would have to be the fact that it did something that other times just weren't able to do. And that was say be afraid of this thing and then be influenceable. And I don't think I have to go into much detail about what that is. I feel like there had been events in previous decades where they say, be freaked out by this thing. And people are like, what? No, we're not doing that. And because they weren't, They couldn't be influenced. They couldn't be controlled. And when you would try to, they would push back. And eventually, the people trying to say, like, be freaked out, they'd back off. And I kind of feel like, in a way, they've sort of backed off, but because they set the bar so high, like they got that one shot, there's a threshold they know they can hit where it's like, okay, as long as we don't go this far, we won't get pushback, but we can still push people's buttons and get them to do what we want. And what's really frustrating, I have to admit, is the fact that when this comes from people who I think are intelligent and who I think know better, when I see them put out videos or podcasts and I see them use the language which is designed to get people's amygdalas fired up and in the fight or flight and like, oh my gosh, just so they can get a click. Like, they'll put the title in the video that asks a question that they don't give an answer to. Or they'll put the caption in the thumbnail that does the same thing. And I don't want to repeat it just because I don't want to give anybody any credence or, yeah. But I've just, in studying podcasts and YouTube and everything, I've learned there are tricks to get views, to grab people's attention. And part of me has to wonder if I'm not guilty of it too. I mean, probably to some degree I am. But I try not to be. I try not to be I mean, I try not to be the guy that says, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. And people are like, oh my gosh, is it? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to do is I'm not trying to make your amygdala go into overdrive and stuff. I used to be a filmmaker, like, I say used to, like, I want to be, but it has just fallen so off. It has fallen so far off on the list of priorities for me. Like, I can say I want to be a filmmaker, but it just feels like I'm not one anymore. I probably do more podcasts than filmmaking. And yeah, I used to want to entertain and show people a good time, and I still do. And hopefully I would think that I do that with this podcast. But man, I feel like I really let sort of the fear mongers and like the clickbaiters just wear that away from me. Where it was just like my amygdala got pressed so much of like panic that my ability to like dream dreams and be hopeful kind of got destroyed. I mean, I know that sucks, but it's like, I mean, that's just how it is. But, you know, I know this podcast sort of started off a little optimistic and now it's like veered into like Jesus is dark, but I'm gonna try to pull it back. And yeah, right now I feel like the thing that I have the most to look forward to is like when I just like get a burger or a slice of pizza. I mean, I feel like that's a lot of people. I mean, thank God Costco pizza is like $1.99 and they haven't changed that. I think the reason they haven't is because that's basically like their advertisement of like, hey, if you pay this $60 once a year, then you can get $1.99 slice of pizza anytime you want. And I feel like that's what a taco used to cost. It's funny, I feel like the whole dollar menu is like a non existent thing anymore. But on the hopeful end, I will say this. I signed up for phlebotomy classes. Yeah, so I signed up for that, and hopefully, sometime this year, I'll get a job doing that. And hopefully, I can make either 8 to 10K more than I usually do, which would be a big deal. And I've heard that even I might be able to make twice as much as what I'm making now, which I would feel blessed for that. I kind of got to wonder, like, where did I veer so far off course? Like, I've never hit rock bottom or anything. Like, that's a weird thing. I've never had, like, some terrible, crazy vice that just dragged my life down so much. But I used to have, like, really huge, big dreams that made me want to, like, strive and achieve for things. Like, I used to say, like, oh, I'm going to be the next Christopher Nolan. And some people might hear this and think, wow, that's audacious. And who do you think you are? But then again, at some point, Christopher Nolan wasn't always Christopher Nolan. He was some dude who liked making movies. He took a shot at it and things took off for him. Next thing you know, he creates the term reboot and dark and gritty and has a crazy effect on pop culture as we know it. I think the craziest effect was how everything got a dark and gritty reboot like within the last 20 years. Heck, one of the craziest things I even remember hearing about is like they were thinking of making some Santa movie that was going to be dark and gritty. I'm like, Santa? He's fat and jolly. How do you do dark and gritty with that? But yeah, I guess the whole point I'm getting at is it was really ingrained in my mind that I'm going to achieve big, huge, crazy things. And I genuinely believed it. I was so focused on that. Like, and it wasn't just like sort of like something I thought about. Like, it was laser focused. I was locked in. You could not deter me away from that. And it wasn't just the focus, it was like I had the desire for that. And like nothing could distract me from that. But at some point along the way, somehow that laser focus, it got just a little bit less precise. That desire to go after it so hard, it cooled a little bit. I think it was just a thing where life's difficulties, like some pretty big plot points in life, just derailed me. And I kind of gotta wonder what I could do to get myself back on track. I mean, if that's even possible. Like, I look at some of the things I made, and I'm impressed by some of the videos I've done. Like, especially when I would make leaps in quality. Like, I'd make leaps in quality in terms of lighting, editing, sound. And then I felt like just as I was getting on the cusp of things, somehow I derailed. And I always want to try to get back on track, but it feels like I'm always responsible for other people. That people are constantly needing my help for something, and I have to help them. And it's one of those things where I'm like, well, what about me? And I feel like there's a question of like, well, what about you? Because it's like, I could do the selfish thing where I'm like, I can just say to everybody, like, all right, forget y'all. I don't care what happens. And I just go off and do stuff. But then it's like, I feel like I'm a terrible person if I do. And I could achieve all the things that I want to. But there would be that thing of like, oh, you threw people away. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know. I feel kind of proud of myself because I know I've said I don't know a couple times, but if you listen to some of my earlier podcasts, I'm saying it a lot less than I used to. I feel that there was more filler words in the old days. Old days. I've only been doing this since like what, 2022? Maybe 2021? I had no clue what podcasting was. Well, I should rephrase that. I didn't know how to podcast. And I would think that I've learned a bit more. Actually, I don't know how much I've learned more about making podcasts and the fact that technology has just gotten so much better. Like, it's wild how much better it's gotten within the last 2 or 3 years. Like, let me give you an let me give you an example of how much better it's gotten. When I started this podcast, and I don't know if you can tell, like if you go back to the very first episode, you may or may not notice the sound quality is different. And that's because when I first started recording it, I would record onto a little audio recording app on my phone and do things that way. And then I would just pass it through an AI filter that reduced background sound. Although when I've gone back and listened to it, and I wonder how well of a job did it do. I would say decent. Now, and there were even some episodes where I just didn't even pass it through the filter because I just didn't have the patience. Now, I use like a little lapel mic and Tascam DR10L recorder, and I do pass it through another AI filter, but this one it's gotten way better. They have this audio isolation track, and I could even change the way my voice sounds if I wanted to. One of the nicest compliments I ever got way, way back in the day was this friend of mine who, well, she was more of an acquaintance. She was this girl from Taiwan who said she liked the sound of my voice because it was slow and easy to understand. And that was one of those things I was a bit self-conscious about. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. So as of recording this podcast, it's Monday. The week is starting, and somehow I get 2 days off this week. Somehow, I'm tired. Somehow I get Tuesdays off, and I requested Thursday off. So that'll be cool. I remember when I started this podcast, I wanted to try to like have guests and stuff, but I realize I do not know enough people, or I don't know. Who knows? I could probably just put my friends and stuff on here. But we'll see. I had this fear that I was like getting allergies and stuff. But it was one of those things where it turned out not to be so bad. I just took like a Tylenol and maybe some NyQuil, and I felt better. I was going to donate plasma this morning, but then I thought, I really don't feel like it. And, well, it wasn't so much I didn't feel like doing it. It was just, I realized, okay, I'm going to go donate and then work 12 to 9, which I do all the time, but I just didn't feel like doing that. And so I did a quick reschedule, and I'm like, okay, I'll donate on Tuesday and Thursday, days where I am not working. And I honestly thought I was going to be able to give up doing that, but money problems made it where I basically had to. And that's one reason why I'm donating. Well, not donating. Yeah, that's the reason I'm donating plasma. I've got issues where I need more money and people depend on me. But that's the reason why I signed up for phlebotomy classes, is I just need more money. Who knows, maybe if I had more money and more time, I could do the things that I really want to do. Like, I could make my podcast better. I could actually make movies. I feel like I could make movies, but it's just, I have so much stuff going on that it's like hard to think about it. Like, I'm so focused on the things that I've got to take care of that it is hard for me to enjoy making movies and doing stuff for me and doing stuff that's creative. It's like I'm a second priority. I don't even know if I'm a second priority. I feel like I'm so far down on my own list. I feel like there's this one line from the movie Dogma where Ben Affleck's character is like getting emotional and shouting, but no, we're servants. And that's kind of how I feel like right now. It's frustrating. And who knows, maybe I do have to do this, maybe I don't. Maybe I just gotta be stern with some of the people who they say they need me. I don't know. But one of the things that's given me some hope is the idea of like, okay, sign up for phlebotomy, get this job, and you can have a bit more purchasing power and things can move forward. And maybe, just maybe, you can look forward to more in life than just like, okay, it's been rough, but if I could just get that double meat Whataburger with cheese from Whataburger, that'll be the emotionally satiating thing that I get to have. And then that'll help me to be able to just do everything all over again. And I know for some people, they would love to have that. Like, on the one hand, I feel like I'm complaining, but at the same time, I should count my blessings. Like, there are people all over the world who like, I would love to have all your problems if like that was all I had to deal with in life. I mean, essentially, I've got a bunch of first world problems that I have to deal with, which is, for all intents and purposes, a good thing. If you've only got first world problems to deal with, then you should take a step back and try to let that influence your thinking. Honestly, if you were born sometime after the Industrial Revolution, you're probably spoiled in comparison to the rest of humanity. Because we really only think of in terms of like here and now, and like we really think short-sighted. But for like the vast majority of human history, all life was struggle and toil and working and very little sleep and very little food. And it kind of begs the question of like, why did those people keep on trying? If you think about it, it really doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, why did those people who had so little to live for keep persevering? What motivated them? Like, I kind of don't get it. And it kind of doesn't make any sense. I feel like if I went back in time to when just, if I go back in time 150 years ago, heck, probably even 100, I would probably look around and be like, nope, and look for like a bridge to jump off of, like a high enough bridge that would do the trick. I know that sounds dark, but I'm just like, and yet those people for thousands of years found a reason to get up, work, go to sleep, however brief it was, and do it all over again. And then eventually they died, and you gotta wonder, what did they live for? And I don't know what they lived before. I don't know what they lived for, but they did live. Well, this is probably as good a time as any to end this episode. This has been the David Wells Experiment. I'm your host, David Wells. Have an absolutely super day, and I hope all your dreams come true. Bye.